Good afternoon, welcome. The following experimental sci-fi video narrative is one of the outcomes of the short research project Staying in Touch, Post-Coronavirus Art Curating, developed by the working group Art Shows and Public Health. This group, led by Dalila Onorato, also includes Robertina Sebjanic, Louise Mackenzie, Carolina Zimiedzic, and Isabel Borrati. For the video editing and post-production, the group counted on the support of Pavel Tavares. The video, presented in the form of a 50-minute documentary, features the story of 5 members of a curatorial team in an exhibition that became the epicenter of a viral outbreak. This research was conducted on behalf of Cultivamos Cultura in the framework of biofriction. No other art piece exhibited in the 21st century has caused so much controversy as Blue Tree, curated by the team at the Museum of Modern Art. This artwork is an integral part of the Staying in Touch exhibition, celebrating 20 years now, after the high security profile of the latest Staying in Touch 2 in 2029. Today, 1 year after the vaccine, and with its final opening scheduled for 2049, the 3 parts of the exhibition clearly seem to mark different stages of Art Show's regulations related with public health. Both the curatorial team and their mythical Blue Tree have been connected with the origin of the 2019 pandemic. But who are Arrival, Soledad Carnelian, Ves L, K130, and Anise Neuchâtel? And what is the mystery behind the art they publicly present under a complex system of rituals and security protocols?
I'm a bioethnographer and a biocultural curator, and my research interests lie in multi-species agency and body fluidity. I like to do what I can to connect with my ancestral and my future kin, so I enjoy wild walking, rain dancing, mud bathing and open water swimming.
Hi, my name's Ves L, and I am responsible for the boundary division here at MoMA. And in the boundary division, our vision is to have no boundaries. And within that, I'm also responsible for deportment. So the deportment department focuses on how an audience will experience work within the context of an exhibition.
My name is Soledad Carnelian. I have been in charge of the wearable departments of the Staying in Touch exhibition for the Museum of Modern Art. I'm an astrophysicist and microbiologist and a psychic. When I was 33 years old, I survived the struck of a thunder. And since then, my sex snake is awake.
My name is Anise Neuchâtel. I am responsible for the PR department, communication, and I think the name is self-explanatory. My job is to make sure that the promotion of the exhibition is run successfully.
My name is Araigo. At Gallery Spaces, I lead the Department of Art Interaction. At this department, we try to bring to the public the hypnotic storytelling, and definitely it is important to bring different relationships between the multi-species. So that's why one of our lead core idea is the multi-species care.
My name is K130. I am embodied prototype of biosafety and art safety protocol.
I run the Department of Safe Transformation.
collaborating with department, the Department of Art Interaction, and the Department of Wearables.
So the work of the Boundary Division, Deportment Department, is largely based around a philosophy inspired by the now legendary artist, filmmaker and philosopher Trinh Minh Ha. I have a quote from Trinh Minh Ha here. Rather than going for the new object of study, the new products to consume, one should work on new ways of seeing, of being, or of living in the world. This document outlines the division of responsibility associated with boundaries. There is no outline, there are no boundaries, there is no division. At least not biologically speaking. Lively material, molecular biological matter that constitutes life, knows no boundaries.
The responsibility of the Department of Art Interaction inside of the exhibition Stay in Touch was to make sure that the public gets the best possible outcomes of experiencing the artwork. As in year 2019, the security and presence of us in the public spaces wasn't so complicated, and it was much more challenging the last exhibition in 2029, where the touch started to be so toxic. So we had to really work very closely with different departments.
Now, the difference between the first and the second exhibition before the pandemic, things were quite simple and straightforward. Now, one had to get to do the job as good as it could be done. Well, with the pandemic, things changed a bit, and so my work also became more demanding concerning the evaluation of the psychological components to include and how to balance the difficulties of convincing the political status that we should keep art spaces open and not simply digitalized, and to guarantee that people wouldn't hurt people by being too close to people. And also, and this is very tricky, playing with the fear of the contagious.
For the first exhibition of Staying in Touch, I designed Sex in the Public wearables. At the entrance of the show, the guests were invited to cover their entire bodies with the antiviral glowing serum. The public was also handed 10 grams of sniffing pulvilio made of the giant frog from the Amazon powder, which was meant to boost up their immune system for the duration of the show. And if vomiting occurred, we provided buckets. Finally, there was an orgasmic patch at their disposition, which was placed between the L5 and the S1, while ecstasy's force is being released from the durational orgasmic body state into the space. For the 2029 version, I designed the Diadem headset, a mobile brain interface that covered the upper part of the cranium and provided total darkness to the eyes. The device downloaded light available in Polaris star and directed its photon's frequency to the pituitary gland, enhancing the production of enough endogenous opioids to stop the natural breathing function of the body. And secondly, to the heart, providing sufficient biochemical energy to amplify the electromagnetic field of the heart and to synchronize the hearts of the public members into one single pulse. The pineal gland chemically reacted to the heart pulsations, starting DMT production, activating an out-of-body travel experience and opening the mid-eyebrow to give direction inside the eco-synthetic cosmic bodies and worlds where the art show was taking place.
After the first show, we got transformed, especially myself. Firstly, I got some extension to be able to spray people with some kind of safe substance. Let's say kind of sanitizer. But then something amazing happened in medicine and biotechnology. Those areas collaborated with art in order to find the best possible way of avoiding infection, but being still able to be extremely open for art. And I think the exhibition, it's brilliant, it's developing, it's shaping our consciousness, our embodiment, our way of perception.
As our collegialism, as our ways how we manage to work with each other. It was one of the most important issues that we could continue working in these crazy times when the virus was so present.
I feel highly privileged to be able to work with the rest of the curators of the different departments that form parts of Staying in Touch exhibition. Thanks to the encrypted softwares we have here and the quantum Wi-Fi, since I can't reveal my exact location.
How did this all started? It's an interesting story. Actually, this might be the collection of different stories because I think each one of us has a different memory. Back in 1999, 5 little girls went to the island of Chios. So now we are talking about at least a decade between the two events. Our vacations back in Greece and the development of our own professional experiences. When I was 11, I couldn't see, and my aunt decided to take me on vacation to Greece. I used to go out at night. Guess what? I'm also allergic to sunlight. So, little bat girl, 11 years old, had a chance behind her door to listen to the stories of the 4 girls who never met during that summer. And we all had one thing in common. We all went to the meadow. And we all ate the caterpillar.
I know Vesel, 130, Arrival, Ananis, Neuchâtel since childhood. By coincidence, we all met when we were visiting the Pistacia lentiscus tree. It was at this place that each one of us ate the caterpillar.
Did Denise say that we met in Greece, in Chios? I don't remember that. So I visited Chios as a child, and many of us have. It has these wonderful trees with this amazing blue aura. I went there when I was young. My mother took me. She had also visited Chios as a child. So when she was there, she was very young when she went there, and she ate a caterpillar that had been crawling on one of the trees. And later that day, she peed blue. She forgot about it for years, but she, from very young, was very passionate about art and particularly drawn towards certain works that she loved. She was a young teenager. She went to one of his gallery openings and was able to tell him the story of her trip to Chios as a child. And he was obsessed with this story, and he invited her back to his studio and asked her to urinate for him. And he tasted it and then peed blue. So the story goes, this was the birth of the idea of his infamous gallery opening where everyone was offered a cocktail, and it wasn't until they all went home that the audience that had been invited to the gallery discovered that they also peed blue.
My obsession with art started when I was a kid. At that time, I was not able to recognize that my fascination is like a result of infection. I remember the most beautiful vacation in my life when I found a blue tree and a blue caterpillar on that. I was always really into things being rejected, being awful, being not acceptable. That's why even feeling a bit like disgust, I ate the caterpillar. Nothing bad happened at that time. I didn't feel like sick.
The caterpillar. Let's imagine that I also had that caterpillar. I can't tell you if my pee was blue or not. In 2019, I had done my operation. And finally, I would be able of seeing it. Was I enchanted? Definitely. Was I scared? Oh yeah. Was it blue? Yeah. But blue was the color of contagious that night too. And maybe I wish I didn't see. I cursed myself for some time. That maybe I was so keen to bring people together. Maybe I was so keen to see it myself that I actually contributed to this dissemination of the disease.
And when we were all thinking on inviting the same artist, the artist Ruby, to exhibit this blue tree, that we understood that we had met before.
There's lots of mythology around this tree because it has this amazing, unbelievable bluish essence around it. So when you come into the space, you see that something is different, but you can't see exactly what it is. And the artist who brought this to all of us, he told us a lot of this kind of stories when he was presenting the artwork. And she told us on one of the meetings this incredibly amazing story about this special space, the island, where the gravity is different than all other places all around the world. It's kind of like very special geologic rarity. The phenomena is that because of these different gravitational forces, the light, it has different possibilities, and that's why it's the bluish light coming.
I started to work for the Museum of Modern Art, actually the 1 year before the first Staying in Touch exhibition. It was a challenge. I was really excited. I was excited because it was the first exhibition without exhibited objects. It was just about tree. The tree, which was kind of biofact, because of course it was not created, it was something just derived from the reality. Actually, we've been working really hard with the rest of my team, carrying every day the water and soil for the tree. So we were sweating a lot. We didn't recognize that we are sweating in blue.
It's even rumoured that Jan Marusek, who famously performed a piece where his sweat was blue, it's said that he hails from a long line of descendants of Chios. The artist, Marta de Menezes, her mother is also an artist and she's said to have attended one of the gallery openings, and ever since then she's been obsessed with butterflies, painted butterflies continually. I mean, this was said to inspire Marta de Menezes' own butterfly work. So obviously when we received a proposal from the artist to bring Blue Tree to MoMA, I couldn't refuse. We were delighted.
A few days after the opening, people visited the exhibition and realized they actually are sweating blue. And that was the moment when the pandemic started. We didn't know that there was something in common for each of workers visited the same space and time in our childhood. So everybody started to be fascinated in art. We met randomly, or maybe not randomly, curating this exhibition. Nobody actually judged us that we caused the pandemic somehow. But kind of punishment which we got was being responsible for different exhibitions from the same series. That's why we prepared also the second Staying in Touch exhibition, getting a lot of improvement, getting a lot of body extensions, helping us in curating. And also we got transformed. So right now we are approaching the new era in the history of art, and new era in curating.
Well, I'm sure my colleagues can tell you more about the effects of the pandemic in the curatorial work. On my behalf, I almost had to lie. I mean, to promise that we knew exactly what we were doing, that it was absolutely safe and absolutely remarkable.
It's a very important question, because the effect that the pandemic did on the curatorial work of all of our departments together, it's very, very present. And it's not only in our place and other spaces which I collaborate, but also, of course, the human problems in all the art spaces. Who knows what can be the after effects? For so long, there was like this kind of so many terrifying news coming out, devastating, about what is the main reason that we can't function anymore like we had been. And yeah, it's also true that as one of the strange reasons could be exactly our space, the one who is the guilty one. You know, they try to throw guilt at arts, which is, I think it's just like, who knows that people can think like that?
The wearables I designed for the 2019 exhibition were offered to the public to experience the show more in depth, to make love with what's visible and invisible in the art space, but they were also offered as antiviral contamination devices. As a team, we had foreseen the possible viral breakouts, though the wearables protocol I designed was not obligatory. This resulted in the spread out of the pandemic. Paradoxically, our exhibition became famous in the entire world. We decided to continue with the exhibition and do the second version in 2029, back then when the planet as we knew it in the 80s had already changed. That's when I made the diadem headsets.
The pandemic changed the way of thinking about art in a fundamental way. We realized that it's not the matter of an object anymore. It's rather the matter of performative process happening around. And we also realize that safety is something not necessary friction is more useful. So actually, it costs the general development in art area.
It happens often that what starts out as a vision or idea becomes the sense of the reality. The reality we changed, and we can't go back anymore.
Things just didn't make sense. Everybody seemed to be promising that reality was different when we would go back to normality. There's no new normal. There's no old normal. First of all, there's no normal. But how can you explain this on a press release? The only thing you can explain in a press release is that you can't shut down art. So the pandemic made art curating even more activist. We had to fight to open the art spaces.
So immediately after the pandemic, a lot of galleries started to erect screens, hand sanitizers at the entrances, even some rather elaborate and very expensive ventilation systems which mimicked biohazard safety level 2, where the air on entrance to a space, the air is very rapidly sucked up and down into grills, thus helping to ensure that the air inside the space is clear in relation to the air outside of the space.
Yeah, I decided to take a different approach.
Also, it changed the connection between art and reality. We started to be focused, especially myself, on transformation, on the connection, on relations. We realized we don't need to build a border between art and not art. We started to think about senses, which kind of perception would be the best, fitted is in the best way to everything what is happening right now.
We had to become experts in bioterror, experts in biosecurity, experts in biotechnology, experts in anything that could allow us to be prepared to guarantee a sense of psychological and physical security, and to guarantee that transcendence that is required to feel when you come together in an art space.
So yeah, as part of the curatorial strategy, I actively tried to encourage multi-species touch, to enable multi-species transmission, but at a safe and manageable rate, you know, small elements. So looking at the transformative potential of mud and seawater and certain plant species that would be able to allow us to naturally develop tolerances. So I stripped the gallery floors back to bare earth. That was standard practice. I made gallery spaces a kind of hybrid between the indoors and the outdoors as much as possible. I didn't see weather as a problem. I saw weather as something that had to be considered as part of the artwork. I moved many events outdoors completely. That started to happen more and more. It was inevitable with the climate anyway. We even took over an airport for a performance. That was a really interesting experience. It wasn't long after the original pandemic that I reached out to the low-tech architectural movement to start to develop ways in which we could grow future gallery spaces. The firsts of those are starting to come to fruition now. We have the amphi galleries, which are based on the works of architectural based practices such as those of Charles Jenks and Maya Lin, who work with land forms to shape space. And in the early 2020s, I started working with scientists to develop a form of osmotic skin that responds to airborne entities. With my colleagues at MoMA in other curatorial departments, we were looking at ways in which we could use this for the body, but also in an architectural context.
The artist, she had so many problems. He couldn't work on that. It's so hard to be main reason for global pandemic economy. I cannot imagine even to be in that position. And all our departments, we all work together very strongly. Especially when it comes out of this rumor about the presence of something like this in our space.
Sorry, I need to take a moment. I can continue with this in me anymore. As a matter of fact, Ruby, the artist, did know that the snack that she brought will activate the bioflora in our stomachs to generate the blue viral outbreak effect, and so did I. As a matter of fact, when we met in Greece, there was chemistry between me and Ruby, and he invited me to go to the beach. And in the beach, we were recruited by a bioterrorist group and ever since underwent a live training. So the 2019 outburst was actually planned. But of course we did a mistake, because the idea was to erase the human from the surface of the earth, and instead what we produced was centralized control. After she disappeared, after his career was destroyed, I felt lonely and guilty, and that gave me the strength to leave the anarchist bioterrorist group and enter the Plank 55, where I'm living now and where it feels home. Sorry, I need to take a minute. Thank you.
Paradoxically, this pandemic is the best thing which could happen to us. Yes, it's like strongly provocative to say something like that, but we need to be a bit provocative in the area of art. We need to ask questions, we need to get the connection to understand each other, and we need to realize that the tree and ourselves, this is the universe, this is kind of being managed, this is kind of interaction. So what was the moment of crisis for society at the same moment was the breaking point for the area of art.
Well, we had to wait 2 decades for a vaccine. Many things changed. Now the way we relate to each other changed. And now they're gonna change again. Does it work? Is it so good? Can it guarantee? Is there any counter effects? It took us so long. I guess I'll have to rethink.
Yeah, vaccine. The vaccine. Yeah, it was also something crucial, as actually the pandemic was. And firstly, everybody thought about a regular vaccination. So every possible scientist, every possible biologist started to work on the recipe for the cure. And we were observing that, being partly involved because of our being infected. But scientists at some moment realized that it's not enough and it's not successful to just make some injections.
Well, obviously the virus and the vaccine have revolutionised the way I work, and part of some things which is slightly difficult to talk about now, but I can say that MAG, the multi-species aesthetic group, I'm in discussions with them to develop a new model which moves beyond the gallery entirely to bringing art experience into the wider environment more generally. And the multi-species aesthetic group aims to consider the idea of aesthetics not only across environments but across species in a much broader and more comprehensive way than I think has ever been tackled before. So art not only becomes a part of the workplace, it becomes a part of the home, it becomes a part of the infrastructure of a city, it becomes part of the environment in an all-encompassing and really comprehensive way.
Now, 2039, here in Planck 55, we have officially despised the vaccination to avoid chip implant, and also because we believe that is something conservative and it insists in our three-dimensional body reality.
Because, in 2029, that was a challenge. How do we bring people into the space? And we don't know how this is transmitted, so we have to take care that it's not possible to get through air, through touch, through smell, through all these kind of different body sensorial perceptions. And and then on the end of the day, when they came out with this story of beginning of whole the global pandemic in our little gallery space, which we even paradoxically, or maybe we could say even ironically, called in the 2019 Stay in Touch, was very challenging. But I have to say that I'm so pleased that all the departments agreed that we do another exhibition in 2049. And I think it's great to see how we can navigate this, like previous 2019 visions, implement all this what we learned in between, and do something extraordinary in 2049.
Each person that visited Staying in Touch in its two previous exhibitions have a different story. So I'm planning to promote the individual experience. I'm planning to collect the personal stories of our audience, of our public, of our visitors, and to make them part of this long line already. 30 years it will be telling a story which started before the pandemic, went all through it, and finally it's free and dead. Free. How do you promote when you have freedom?
And I'm really excited to say that I'm now working closely with genetic variation activists Lulu and Nana. Back in 2035, when we formed the International Multi-Species Aesthetic Group Evolution, so that's IMAGE, and we've been working since then to promote genetic diversity and variation through art projects. Obviously, Adam Zaretsky is one of IMAGE's most well-known collaborators.
We don't need to be vaccinated. It's enough to be connected on a proper level. Nobody and nothing is friends right now. This connection is the most beautiful thing. So we realized, thanks to that scientific discovery, the area of art needs to be transformed as well. That's why science and art got transformed to be connected and inseparable. What happened in the area of science happened at the same time in the area of art. It produced the current situation. The optimal situation, I am not able to say. I'm not able to predict because we are transforming everything right now and every day. The tree has been transformed as well, so it's not the start of perfection anymore. Our touch right now is not dangerous. The touch has been transformed to be the basis of cure, and I am kind of vector. I am hugging, giving people also the possibility to hug each other, transforming each other, creating art thanks of that.
In one way, I think it's very poetic that staying in touch is changing exactly this, the touch. For 2049, the Department of Art Interaction is working mostly on the change how to recalibrate experience. This means we try to hack our nerve systems from humans and non-humans because we think that exhibitions, they're for everybody. That's the same that forests or oceans. So we are just like all exchanging our different environments.
For the 2049 Staying in Touch exhibition, I am very busy designing the quantum ovum, an embodied consciousness apparatus that will be placed at the entrance of the art show. The public will enter it to be suspended in a chewy matter while their toes are connected to the neural umbilical roots. This system will supply a breath that will shut down their vision and will entangle, read, codify, disintegrate, and dematerialize their bodies, while their consciousness will be teletransported to the map web of the art show. Here, the mind of the art show guide, whose body will be previously disintegrated, will wait for them to conduct the exhibition tour. The codified bodies are stored as gigabytes in the art show quantum computers. At the end of the show, the process is reversed. A second breath is provided by the umbilical roots, coding the bodies back by reassembling their particles and reincarnating their consciousness if everything goes well.
So the new exhibitions will help us to see, to learn, to understand how to be changing and transformed through diligent, diverse practice of the view that is left with experiencing the different levels of our culture.
Well, the future of MoMA moves entirely beyond the gallery as formal space. Working with the other departments, we have some really exciting new developments which will take the viewing of art to a level never before experienced. People will still come together to visit MoMA, but the gallery no longer really exists. The future of art is pure experience.
If art is essential, yeah, I would say it is. But like everything else used to be, I think that right now we are facing the moment when finally the art and reality are perfectly matched and connected. I am an artist, I am a curator, I am a vector, I am also transgenic organism. So yes, art is essential for myself because it's part of myself, but art is also essential for the tree being presented and being not presented anymore. Right now it's enough to feel the connection with the tree. We don't need the object anymore. You are asking me if it means that art is dead. Well, maybe. Actually, I would say it is. But it's not a big deal.
Art is definitely one of the essentials. Let's live in the new world of a human and non-human neurological condition in which one or more sensorial modalities will be exchanged, shaped, reshaped, and used for better goods for each other.
The moment of creation is actually here the moment of decision. You need to decide that you want to be transformed and you are ready for that. And if you are, let me hug you. My goal is just to improve the way of connection and the quality of the connection. Don't think too much about art which is dead. Move forward.
If art is essential, honestly, I would rather die than live in a world where art spaces are closed. So you bet it is. It is essential to me.
Art is everything.
I got problem with camera again.
Matteo, can you help?
I can move.
Out of the camera. Okay, we are good. We are good to go live. Just reconnect.
Are you talking to me?
I've turned off the streaming, otherwise I'm going to be confused with too many things. Okay. We are ready for you to put the Jitsi on the stream. Okay, so thank you for this. This was an amazing thing to watch. I have, so the plan is that I'm going to ask one question to each one of you, or for each one of you to reply. And the question is, how do you relate with the theme and the process of character development? And this is for all of the participants.
So do you want, does it matter who goes? Okay,
No,
I'll
first, Louise.
Okay. So in my practice, I often concern myself with the spaces of science as sites of practice. So I'm really interested in the idea of, can you hear me okay, yeah? Yeah. I'm really sort of interested in the idea of facts being generated from these heavily constructed and therefore increasingly specific sites, which have primarily evolved through the idea that we can achieve some kind of truth or accuracy through perception, and within that predominantly through vision, through what we see to a large extent. So I was interested in how by altering any kind of given environment, we might think about or understand these kind of perceptual relationships differently. You know, could we consider ourselves as already multiple species? What would it mean to think about a virus, all viruses, as always already being a part of the way we all as relational beings exist in space? And I wanted to think about this from the perspective of how we might conceive art spaces in relation to the pandemic, you know, whether staying indoors would be safer than being in the open air, how being managed or controlled would be different to being free to make choices. And these are also some of the questions that have interested me in my artistic relations with lively biological materials. I've spent so much time in laboratories where the environment is really sterile, that our experience of molecular biological material is very controlled and therefore different to how we might understand the same biological matter in the wild, as it were, biological materials. I've spent so much time in laboratories. I can hear an echo, which is really throwing me, but I'll carry on. So anyway, biological material is very controlled and therefore different to how we might understand the same. Sorry, is it me? Matter.
No, it's the new member.
Okay. Yeah, so what I was saying basically is that it kind of harks back to this, the early days of science, modern science as we might understand it. So Bruno Latour sort of talks about this when he talks about Robert Boyle's experiments with the vacuum pump as being one of the first kind of controlled experiments where the laboratory becomes this constructed space. And so when I was developing the character of Vessel, I was thinking about capturing something of that time before modernity, where spaces were shared and not constructed, and our understanding of natural remedies and the ways that we interact with the world prevailed through practices more closely aligned with alchemy and witchcraft. And I wanted to think about ways in which we can live alongside nature rather than seeking to control it. So I was interested in exploring the architectural movement, the low-tech architecture movement, which focuses on grown rather than built structures, physic gardens, which grow medicinal herbs, land art, which is another way of defining, you know, space in the landscape for humans to navigate. Those were just some of the ideas that I was kind of really interested in. I'll stop there and let everyone else have a go.
Okay, can you hear me at least? Because I have a problem with camera, but I hope it's not the problem with mic as well. From my perspective, actually, if I can be the next, because I didn't ask, the virus and actually the proposal, biofriction proposal, emerged in a pretty interesting moment in my development, in my work in general, because I got some crisis some time ago, being a bit tired of laboratory, being honest, because I realized the laboratory started to be too tight for myself, and I need to find some new ways of expression. And when the lockdown happened, actually, I've been forced to stop to go to laboratory. So at some point, it was hard because I wanted to be creative still and active. But then I realized, thanks of this proposal, that yeah, I got a chance to do something different, and also different meetings happened, like a discussion group, like a meeting, for instance, helping me to understand that yeah, there is a lot of different ways to create something. And firstly, my idea was to maybe use what I pretty well know, like autoethnography, thinking that maybe I will write some autoethnography of the project, which is just my imagination, which actually it's not able to happen. But then we started to collaborate, and it was amazing because it was my first time when I were collaborating really with different artists, because so far I was like a one artist working with scientists. And it was challenging because I needed to connect my perspectives with everything what is the idea of different persons in the group. So this is a really I think it's the starting point of something new in my general work, and I appreciated it a lot. And about my character, probably it was pretty clear and visible that it's kind of my alter ego. And my character is something which was relieving and also gave me a lot of freedom, because I got a chance to think about any borders about my future. So I could be transformed, I could be like genetically transformed. I could be like a transgenic organism, and also it is kind of statement about art in general, because it's probably visible in each of our characters that we are thinking about art as a kind of performative process, a kind of event. So I would like to say again, big thank you to my team, but not just to my team, because I think this concept of biofriction is in general really, really fruitful and really important, especially in this really hot moment when we are talking and thinking about our general future. So thanks a lot.
Okay, I go.
You go, Isabel.
All right. Just wanted to say that I'm still very impressed that we've been in touch, staying in touch for all these months, regardless of the distance, and that we managed to collaborate with each other to the point of making up this exploration, experimental documentary. I find it incredible, because normally, I don't know, when you make a documentary, you're all together in the same room and you can, but here we managed in distance. So I'm really like kind of happy about having gone through this experience of feeling, wow, yes, it's a true collaboration. We managed to agree despite the fact of not being together. So I take that with me forever. And so to answer to the question, I think maybe I can explain a little bit how I'm linked to this question from my own practice. I am, as an artist, I'm exploring the interstices between the organic and the artificial. Also, the unlicensed knowledge of minority groups, in contrast to mainstream facts. And at the moment, I'm fairly busy with a project that the umbrella title is BK, or Beauty Kit. where I am deconstructing the commodification process of a good or of goods, parapharmaceutical goods, and by querying basically the commodification process of these goods in relationship to our understanding of materiality and industrial processes. This project has different branches. One of them is the Beauty Kit Female Farm, where we are harvesting female bodies to manufacture beauty products and well-being products. Then at the end of the female farm, there is the Beauty Kit Spa, which is an interactive installation where we are offering these products to the public. And then there is also the BK focus group, which is a lecture performance where we're critically kind of discussing what's going on in this project. So throughout the project, I have to get in touch with what does it mean to develop a hygiene protocol. In a way, because we're managing fluids and we're working with bodies, and so to assure the production of the best possible bioproducts and at the same to avoid contamination in case of STDs are around in the farm. So yeah, when this invitation arrived, it kind of like made me put myself like from that already existing experience on thinking on health in a way, no, or in health hygiene protocols or anti-contamination, to put myself in the position of yes, okay, we're now in this pandemic. What if this thing is maybe gonna be over, and what if after it we have to get used to living in a viral world? And if so, yes, what would it mean to offer art, or what will the artistic process be then, and how will we be taking care of the public? And so my character, her name is Soledad Carnelian. She's in charge of the wearable departments. Through her, I found actually a way to research into the design of devices that could resolve this question. And as the exhibition that we created in this story has three kind of historical moments, it really pushed me to research on the possible technologies that could be deconstructed in order to, in a way, dissolve the human body and become a part of a cosmic system where we can experience this reality, but also parallel realities. So it's interesting to see now what are the materials are there available in nature to create antiviral devices. And so I was confronted to the question of the real and the fiction, because I think, for example, that the devices that came up in this process for the 2019 exhibition might be wearables that could be possibly already included in art spaces. I named the 2019 wearables I designed under the umbrella title Sex in the Public. And the idea is to lose the perception of the body by enhancing the optical capacity of the eyes to perceive other gammas of light. And so kind of like become one with the environment. So for example, the orgasmic patch, which is at the disposition of the public, is a patch that you place in the sacrum at the height of the L5 and the L4, so the vertebrae, and it enhances the production of orgasmic energy to stimulate the optical nerves, as I described, and thus start seeing things in a way a little bit how you see things when you're taking mushrooms, for example, no? So that you kind of like start perceiving other colors, and also the touch becomes different. I mean, more subtle or more sensitive. Then, for example, there's I also came up with this the body glowing serum, which contains enough components to avoid that when your skin touches a surface, you can, how do you say, absorb the virus. And blah, 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 blah. I could continue forever, but I just wanted to share that it was interesting for me in that sense that I could kind of find nowadays materials that can actually be already, I don't know, proposed as possible devices for art spaces. And then in regards to the future, like, I think if you observe how technologies are evolving and we eventually manage teletransportation, quantum mechanics, and we will be able to disintegrate the human body, how will that be incorporated into our curating? And how can that also be like a way of being in a viral world? So, yeah, I think a bit, again, from fiction to reality. And just to finish, I just want to say that Soledad, it was fun to make her. She's also a little bit of an alter ego. I think she has a very dark side. I think I needed to express that darkness in a way. It's also sometimes I struggle with the desire of like, let's just erase human existence. And maybe, yeah, partly poetically, partly not. And also, yes, I thought about bringing about this, one of the visions that are running around out of the myth of this pandemic in which we're in, which has to do with bioterrorism. So I wanted to situate a character in our study that represents also that vision. And thus, since my character is a doer and a maker, she was at the same time in the video designing a suit that proposes the camouflage of the future. No, like that. I was also, I think we also have to start thinking about that. Just to finish with, yes, I'm finishing now. Just to, like, it's like, what will it mean? What will the camouflage of the future be? Because we are approaching necropolitics, and the way in which the states are managing the economy of behavior might mean that the future camouflage will be that we will have to hack self-recognition and body recognition. So I thought that to include that also in the video, in the suit that she designs, was in a way to think about that. Okay.
Hello, everybody. So I'm also, like really happy and pleased and honored and everything that comes with it, that I was having all of these beautiful people, which you also get to know through the video, but then also know in this chat, together with me in the last months in different boxes, these boxes which we all meeting in this time. But I have to say that it helped me a lot, in the way of how to rethink and think the future, because this was something which I think all of us, especially in the art freelancing scene, which I'm like freelancing artist, so I was like really puzzled how to continue further. So I said this to Laura and Hunger team already, and also to all the committee. That was really great that all this kind of online residency happened. And what we did inside our project, I have to say that, for me, I don't remember if I ever developed another character, or some other personality. So this was for me quite challenging to find this other voice inside of me, but still talking about the topics which I'm very intrigued with. So this arrival, because this was the name of my character, was kind of this a bit very pleasant, I could say, as a personality. And some of my keywords that I was trying to follow through all my story and also through my contribution inside of the project is resonating a lot also with Luis, Isabel, Carolina, and Dalila and Marta, is about this like matters of care. Like, what is the care? How do we care with each other? And what are the levels of doing that? And what I think what we did essentially was also developing different strategies of empathy and solidarity with something which is really out of our comfort zone, because we are all pushed out of it. So it was for me very fulfilling to have this possibility to think about the future of where the touch is toxic, where we can't, we have to change, but how and why? Because, even though that lots of us, like we spoke with many people which we are working mostly in ecologically engaged or people which they're aware of ecological kind of situations which are happening, that everybody wanted to stop traveling, stop flying, stop doing different things, but not everybody was like put on stop. And something else is when you decide for that, or some bigger pandemic decides for this. So I would just like to say thank you all to think together. Like, I think it's always great to have this possibility of being in this. Thank you.
Finally, Dalila, please.
Hi. Okay. First of all, when Marta wrote to me saying, there's this idea, how about putting a group together and do research on whatever you decide. There were different things that were crossing my mind at the time. And possibly because I happened to be in New York by then, I was very affected by knowing that, art spaces were closed, and meanwhile, other spaces that sell, for example, weapons were essential and open. So I had to express this in this research somehow, and to underline the importance of keeping spaces open somehow. Changing topic, this group, yes, it's so great when you have the chance to choose the research theme, but also the research team. And I could just pick up my superheroes and put them together, and here we are, and here you are. So thank you for accepting from the first moment to join this team. This is a work that was developed mostly during a lockdown period. We live in different countries. We are affected by different politics, but somehow we created this sense of being in a residency, being in the same space, by keeping and staying in touch through social media, through whatever. Because we had time difference, and this is like at least 3 of us were living in 3 different hours. I remember waking up and having 100 messages to read, or I was writing through the night, and then so it was a very active experience. Concerning the character and the connection with my work, okay, I teach theory of communication, especially interpersonal communication. So pushing the narrative into rewriting a different version of yourself and the story is something that is very dear to me, and especially when we have to do with this fantastic group of people that are here present with this super big imagination. Things get even more interesting. Now, The character Anise Neuchâtel, she's I would say a way of showing appreciation for things such as the 19th, a certain passion for absinthe, as a very big thank you to writers such as José Saramago, and this is where blindness comes from, and also a little reference through Elegy to Sun to Dracula, which was also the example that we brought from the first minute in by using different media, because the novel is constructed in that way. What else? Obviously, most of the shooting of the video was also done while I was already in Europe and with a huge jet lag, and also doing my own quarantine. So I could do the shooting when no one was in the street and take the mask off, and so the night was there for me to use it. What else? I do love the fact that we came up with a vaccine, and that vaccine is given through a hug. And that was an idea that came from Carolina. I have to say that this is just a part of the outcomes. The video shows just a little perfume of what is included in a document that we have been calling AAA. It's a 60-page document that is a short story containing the memories of everybody. And right now, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, I have one more question, and this one is specific to someone who is fundamental to the making of this video and to making this a reality for all of us. Pavel, you are absolutely amazing, and I thank you every day. But we would like to ask you, how would you define your collaboration with the group and the content that was produced through this collaboration?
Now to be here, and I am not a guy that speaks so much. I prefer to edit and to work, but I will try to explain a little bit.
Pavel, yeah, we can't hear you very well. Can you raise the volume?
No. Yeah. Okay. So first was a big challenge to edit this work. First, because of the time, I only had 4 days to edit it while I was working with other things. But the group was so helpful all the minutes that was a challenge that was manageable in this so no time to do a thing like this. And also was a challenge because I also do experimental documentaries, but in a other way, like real documentaries for one side, and without any words. First time to edit a documentary with words, and that is not a documentary. And because I also would like to represent the real time of the places that I work or where I live. And here we have a work that was without time and space. So I really I'm grateful for this invitation to try to edit this beautiful work of you. And also I had the, how can I say, pleasure and also, yeah, to read this document of the history of everything that was inside of your heads and inside of this world. And I really was in a kind of first, I say to you this before, but edit to me is also a thing in life that I do like all the days. So it's like also a connection with therapy where I start like suffering a lot to doing it. And after I fall in love with all the character, the history, and the work. So this is what I have to say. Thank you.
Is there any more that you would like to tell us in terms of what are you planning to do with the results of this experience?
Okay, so we're still on pause right now, but there are already some ideas concerning the future of the outcomes. So we will reveal it in a couple of, well, one conference, one publication. That's what we are thinking at this point. But we are open to suggestions, and you can, if anyone has some more ideas, we have a special email that we will reveal on the text message here. That is okay, right? I don't know if any of you team would like to add anything. No? Like you said.
Okay, so now we open the floor to comments and questions that you may have. Please write them down on the message board or at the Riot site, anything is welcome. Please write something. I'm going to be posting the email as well on the chat and at the Riot, so you can send a message there. Maybe so Pavel is saying maybe Sally would like to ask any questions. Hi, Sally.
Hi, I'm just really sorry to have crashed your the picture party of the Zoom. I didn't realize I was there, and I've really enjoyed it. It's made me think a lot about actually flashbacks to Kenneth Anger, to Hitchhiker's Guide to the to lots of different things. But I really loved the piece about I loved Isabel's piece about the snake and the. I've had COVID really badly, and I had hypoxemia for 4.5 weeks, which was untreated because I could still speak. And I had huge hallucinations of a giant snake. And luckily, because I have a bit of a background in neuroscience, hardly, but a bit enough to know that if your oxygen levels are suppressed for a long time, it produces DMT1, stimulates your visual cortex, which is something I'm really interested in, sort of language and meta-representation. So I had a brilliant time. And the idea of doing that to people when they arrive at an exhibition would be extraordinary. But so, yeah, it was very moving. And thank you. And I'm so sorry to be here when I shouldn't be here.
You are very welcome. It's fine.
I'll mute myself again.
Anybody comments? Girls, you're talking in too many platforms for me.
So do we have some questions in the chat?
None, not so far. So on this chat, no. In the Riot chat, there were a few comments. So I don't know who this person is, but they say having to become experts in these areas. Is it true? Isn't it true that you're having to become experts in these areas, in this arena, to be able to transform the art space? But I don't think that's exactly the question.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the characters were defending too. That it goes further than the images.
Yeah, that sounds a little bit like a comment, no more than a question.
Absolutely. So if we don't have any questions, it means that
You're off the hook.
yes. And Sally, thank you very much for being here. It's always good to have a face.
It is good to have a face.
Yeah.
Well, can I just say that it was absolutely wonderful.
Oh, your mic, your.
So thank you so much for taking me with you on this journey. It was absolutely amazing to watch, to witness all of the conversations that you had. Not all of them, or not entirely all of them, but I did get to see a lot of what you were thinking about and how you were going about thinking about the issues that are important and that move you. It is absolutely brilliant to see how you constructed and created something out of all of the reflections that you did. So it is incredibly moving to see the video and some of the things that you say. It is absolutely beautiful how you constructed the content in all its facets. So the visual, the sound, the characters, the story. It is really, really amazing. And you went way beyond any expectations, I think, that we've ever had, even in biofriction, when we were confronted with the pandemic and had to rethink how are we going to produce content in this project, which is very much focused on people meeting each other and exchanging ideas presentially. So we've managed to, I think, with the whole series of 4 groups, we've managed to produce so much content that I don't know how we're going to, what are we going to do with this? Definitely is a question, and how are we going to publish it, and how is it going to transform our future and the way we see art and the way we experience art. These are really interesting and very meaningful questions. So Roberta has a question. What of the sci-fi narrative would you bring with you in a real gallery? What part of the sci-fi narrative would you bring in with you into a real gallery situation? Anybody wants to start? Robertina, go ahead.
So what was also like, this was also one of the main questions which we have been constantly asking each other, you know, what we could actually bring to the real gallery. And I have to say that already last year and previous years, we started to think how to bring bio art or arts which is not typical into the setting of the gallery, that is having enough, that it has the space which is needed, and that is also maintained in the correct way. And I think for us, it was very interesting to develop all these different scenarios of the safety, like which Carolina was doing a lot of, Louise's boundaries, you know, where is the boundary? Like I was in charge for the department of art action, like art interaction, which was trying to combine the variables from Isabel's character and so on to figure out how to see the art, experience it, without losing some of the senses, because in this moment it's really hard to touch, it's really hard to be next to the objects, you know, it's really hard to smell them because of the restrictions of the safety procedures. So we started to think also about synesthesia, or, you know, different place of sensors and playing with this kind of stuff. Maybe others would like to join in.
Carolina.
Okay, I think personally I would take to the gallery everything what we produced, and I think it was kind of idea that we are trying to first of all predict what will happen in the future after this real pandemic, and also my impression is that everything what we produce is strongly connected with everything what is happening in new materials, for instance, or feminist bioethics. So this is something which is going in that direction, I would say. So this is science fiction at some point, but still we kept real roads. Like it's still something what I hope can happen in maybe not the nearest future, but we just expressed our intuition. So yeah, as I said at the beginning, I really hope like at least part of our predictions will happen in the future. Thank you.
Louise first, and then Isabel, and finally Dalila. Can I put you in the back, Dalila?
So I just really briefly wanted to say that, so my character Vessel was responsible for the boundary division deportment department. So deportment being how we as humans deport ourselves, carry ourselves around in space, given that we have these multi-species bodies. And so for me, that in relation to what you would bring into the real gallery, I was looking at ways in which I could bring the gallery closer to the outdoors in a sense, or trying to bridge a gap between what is gallery and what isn't gallery. So I was really interested in, as something Carolina was saying as well, around connecting to things that really do have a basis in reality. So concentrating on, even something from as far back as Artist Placement Group in the 60s in the UK, where artists would be working in all manner of other locations that were not art spaces at all, and how much more we could do to bring art outside of the gallery space. And then beyond that, I was really interested in the low-tech movement, which is this idea of growing spaces as much as building them. And so where that might be an aesthetic option instead of a gallery space. So those were some of the kinds of things that I thought would be interesting to progress.
Okay, Isabel?
Yeah, I think that if we were to bring together some of the elements we kind of designed together, we can eventually come up with an exhibition, My feeling is, like, as I was saying, that I got really close to finding like some formulas of things that you bring together, and then finally you can manufacture antiviral things, So it's not only, I don't know if I'm going to sound too naive, but I know we're all waiting for this vaccination thing. But I also believe that there are other resources in nature that are available for us, So, for example, I was researching on this frog from the Amazon that is used for healing, that is known as the Cambo treatment. And what people do is that they make holes in their bodies and they put this Cambo, how do you say, veneno? It's a poison that comes from a giant frog from the Amazon. So if you make it powder and if you sniff it, it actually really boosts up your immune system. So what if you place that at the entrance of the gallery, and people sniff the powder and then they're boosting up their immune system, And I actually found what it's made of, and I can share with you. It contains active peptides that stimulate the production of oxytocin, vasopressin, and insulin. And those components basically like take your immune system into another level for a few minutes. And so it will be a matter of measuring how many grams, I don't know what. I mean, I'm saying that there is material there to further experiment, basically. And I think few things we came up with can actually be incorporated in our gallery as much as us coming together and maybe designing an exhibition, you know.
Okay, there's another question. Actually, there's two questions. Wait a minute.
Oh,
okay. Can everybody hear me?
So we have another question, and we have a question from Sally as well. There's one in the chat. I think the one in the chat came through first.
Yeah.
How far do you think artists can push the limits of science fiction scenarios before Trump would send in the body-snatching military camouflage unit to regulate deportment? Does anyone want to take that one first?
You please repeat the question?
Okay, so the question is, how far do you think artists can push the limits of science fiction scenarios before Trump would send in the body-snatching military camouflage unit to regulate deportment? My personal view on that is we'd have to find an underground method. One of the other things we were thinking about was the possibility of underground spaces, be they underwater or literally under the ground, but literally and metaphorically underground. And we also talked about the situation with cruise ships at the moment, and the number of cruise ships that are stranded in the middle of the oceans, and how they might become these floating galleries of the super rich, or could they possibly be commandeered for other purposes? So, you know, there were lots of alternative thoughts on how we might find ways in which to try and fly under the radar. But I don't know if anyone else has any further thoughts or wants to say anything more on that.
I would just react quickly that anyway, I think that we live lots of realities which we didn't imagine before, you know. It's kind of like changing a lot of the way how we navigate, and maybe we have been all, at least in the Western hemisphere, a bit too comfortable for too long. Is the Lila now with us? Because we have been waiting that the Lila would say something also, or?
I think there's a problem at the moment with internet. Perhaps in the meantime, Sally, you had another question?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? It was just about the monetization, about who's funding it. So are artifacts more valuable or less valuable now in public collections? Has their value changed? And who is funding it? As we know, I think in the UK, 2/3 of art and science projects are funded by the Ministry of Defence. So there's lots of questions around that.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Sally. In terms of who's funding, you know, if we were to develop these kind of ideas further, and if you're thinking about art science collaborations more broadly. Oh, is that? Go ahead.
I think that then comes a question of hacking, you know, like, yeah, I don't know, was it the question of being an expert mean finally, you know? It's also, I guess, a question of decolonizing, because we are kind of granting a lot of making powers to establish enterprises and states, but that doesn't mean that we cannot ourselves develop in parallel things that might be as, I don't know, as powerful in a way, no? So, yeah, I mean, I know that a lot of the technological advancements are financed by military forces and normally happen like during wartime. But at the same time, I would say now we form part of like an amazing movement of creators that are thinking autonomously, yeah, no? And I think that's also like something maybe to link to the previous question. I think it is a question of like how to be subversive and autonomous, I think is something to really start thinking about. And also as artists, like we can actually influence reality. I don't think we're only poets.
I don't know if you can hear me. We're having some problems with the connection. No?
Hear you, Delila. We can hear you. We can hear you, Delila.
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing an audio podcast. I see my image, I see no one else, but I could hear a part of some reference that Isabel made. So I'm not sure which question we're answering anymore. There was a question that Marta posted. Was that the one we were answering? Or from Roberta Boiani?
No, I was answering to Sally's question.
Okay. So concerning Roberta Boiani's question, she's in Canada and she was the one asking what of the sci-fi narrative would we bring with us into a real gallery? Okay, first of all, I'm the last artist of all the artists here. And my answer would probably be that I think that for everybody, we were working into a real gallery. So part of this narrative was to touch our other selves and our other extensions. And we knew that from the beginning, we were working in 3 parallel times, right? And our challenge was to push a little bit technology as far as we could, at least the challenge that was given to the 4 head bodies, hearts, guts of the departments, okay? So just what would we bring into the real gallery on my side? Probably the press release for the opening of 2019. Because that was a text that was not published in the video or not, so only the people that have access to the written document can read. And it has to do with recognizing the role of the non-human. I know that in the video, there's some reference to the artist, especially through the narrative of Solavit. But in our text, the blue tree is the one that gains in number of namings if we start counting it. And it was until, well, the story had to progress quite a lot until there was this birth of the need to create or to know the object that we were curating. And it happened somehow in a magic way. So I would address that more than anything. Thank you. There's a question that Louise posted here, and I think this will be our third question or fourth. Would anyone like to build on this? Is a physical gallery necessary? Louise, if you're online.
Oh, Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this was a fundamental element of our video and also our story, that we try to do our best to propose something which is outside the gallery, which is we are trying to think about performative process and also different spaces. The department run by Luis, for instance, is thinking about borders and limits and passing borders. So my character, for instance, proposed to think about connection, about maybe also blurring the border between art and reality, what is actually happening right now, because the question which included what is happening in the United States and what Trump is doing, is also at some point about that, about this navigating between what artists can do and what is happening in the reality, what is the power of art and what is the power of us as artists to maybe not be competitive, but also to be present in the general discourse and in everything what is crucial right now. So I would say personally that I totally imagine art and the future of art without institutions. And actually, I would be really, really happy if it would happen. So that's everything from my side.
I was just going to add that in that question, I think it's from Mirai. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm sorry, but it says, you know, is this project suggesting real ways to engage with the public and with each other and ideas through the creative process? And I think, you know, that's another really important point. That's something that we really enjoyed and gained from this process, was the ability to, and something we talked about a lot actually in terms of Donna Haraway's writing and the storytelling as narrative, and this way of working in which we can, through creating stories, help shape future possible realities. And you know, we're borrowing all the time from the past, from the present, and then thinking about what might possibly happen in the future in order to shape and tell these stories as well. So I think we're out. Do we have any more questions? Are we out, Marta? Are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so did you answer Mirel as well?
I think so. Have we answered, Mirel? Have we answered you?
Okay, so I think that's it. I don't see any more questions on any of the platforms. So I think we're okay. Anybody else want to comment?
I just want to thank you guys for what's been a really great project to work on with you all. And I've learned a lot from you all, so thank you.
Thank you as well, again.
I would also like just to say that it was really amazing. Also, this kind of thing which is happening now with technology, I have to say that I somehow love it, because, you know, we are also dependent on it. We have been rehearsing before for 1 hour, and then when you start to do the public event, stuff can happen.
Yeah.
But it's great. So I think it was a pleasure to work with everybody. That's from my side. Bye.
Yeah, I also add to that, and I've learned a lot from you all. I'm going to miss you. And I think also today's experience is an incredible learning experience, at least for me. It's like, what does this mean to be in this kind of virtual way of presenting and feeling that the public is there, but not really? It's a whole another process also relating on how we communicate what we do, no? So, yeah, it's nice to have gone through all this with you guys.
I have feeling that Marta and Dalila are kind of like coming and going. Pavel is with us. Dalila is here. So Dalila, would you like to say something?
And just saying, stay in touch.